So people come to me because they have pain, and mostly they come with either headache, migraine symptoms, stiffness, immobility, neck, shoulder pain, thoracic pain, elbow pain, wrist pain, and low back pain. And they come mainly from postural problems. They may have been born with congenital problems, or they may have past injuries that they've not had treated properly, that their body has compensated with. So poor postural habits. Now, during lockdown, most people are now got a computer or a laptop at home, and you can see the person on the right hand side. This is very, very common, not only for yourselves in front of the television. Most people, don't have office furniture at home, so they're using their sofa tables and their coffee tables and also their armchairs. So you can see the poor person on the right crouched over. You can see even the tension in his fingers and his wrist. You can see the effect of his round back. You can see his head looking forward into his laptop. So many hours of this builds up a repetitive strain, but it's just showing the stresses that build up on the base of your neck, your wrist and your low back. So when you take your body weight out of posture, then parts of your spine has got to compensate. So the base of your neck has got to compensate with the weight of your head going forward, and then all your muscles in your neck and at the front and the back have got to sort of contract for the load, and this is spread all the way down into your thoracic spine and into your low back. Can you see me, everybody?
Yes, and during that, Suzette, I was correcting my own posture.
Okay. So everybody, what I want you to do is, because we're always bending forward over a laptop, I want you to just put your hands on your shoulders. And now what I want you to do is, for where you are, is take a deep breath. Then I want you to take your shoulders up and round and back down and take another deep breath. Did you find how you could breathe in better?
Yeah.
Now what I want you to do is to take your shoulders as if you're hunched up a bit higher than they were before, and take a deep breath in. It's not very successful, is it? Can't take much air in. Now take them up a bit more when you really are stressed and screwed up with tension and it's cold and you've been locked up for hours. Try and take a breath in. It's really hard. So an osteopath's work is structure governs function, and it's making my patients aware of how they're holding themselves to how they function properly. Most people now who are coming to me who are being furloughed at home or working at home, so it's helping them to have a posture that's balanced so that they can work the long hours they need at home. So if you're lucky enough to bring your office chair home, do so. It's much better than the kitchen chair or the sofa. A high back chair if you can, and sit straight back in. You may need to roll a towel in to support your back, but make sure that your knees are hip width apart and that each foot is placed equally into the floor so that you're balanced.
Thank you for that, Suzette. I always think it's superb to be reminded of good posture and making sure that our physical health is good. When I give presentations to employees, so when we go out to our clients and we give presentations on financial wellness, the interaction between financial wellness and physical wellness and mental wellness is always really surprising to me that those three things are so interlinked, because money worries are the biggest cause of stress and concern. And every survey that every employer I've ever worked with has done, it says that that's, a major cause of concern, financial worries. And that obviously then has an impact on people's health. Do you find that stress, whether it be about money or other things, has an impact on how people use their posture?
Absolutely, because the examples and the little talk I've given you about how you set up your posture, structure governs function. So if you have created a posture where your round back and your neck and your shoulders are all jammed and your head is, crunched into your shoulders like a tortoise, when stress comes, it affects the nervous system. It makes us go into fright and flight. So what happens when we have financial worries, and sort of a lot of my patients will come when they're going through divorce or even sort of when somebody has died, and all these emotional horrible parts of life and stress affects the nervous system. It goes into this sympathetic overtone, which then makes muscles shorten and contract. And if your posture is already set up, then the link there is the stress affects the underlying structure. And so patients will come with pain, and then I've got to explain the two links, that it's mind and body. But I also maybe have to get counselling, or I might have to, which I do now, is point them in your direction to help them get a great plan of action, because it's that plan of action, Suzanne, that we all need to get on the straight and narrow.
But I've written that down, structure governs function, because I think that's true. Not only of physical well-being, but also of financial well-being. When people come to a financial advisor, they expect to be told about products. So, how does my pension work? How does my ISA work? How does my unit trust work? And none of that, it's all peripheral to what the core thing is, which is, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to use your money to achieve? And how are your finances structured? And getting that bit right is so much more important than deciding which ISA to use, or whether a Scottish widow's pension is better than a Royal London pension. I know James wants to come back in and ask some questions. So
thanks very much for everything so far. I must admit, Suzette, when you came on and mentioned about how people were sitting, I was sat awfully. So I've tried to fix that myself now. Why should younger people be focused on both their physical and their financial well-being? I think we've just covered that, haven't we, to be fair?
I'll just say something about why you should be focused on your financial well-being, and then if Suzette wants to add anything, then fantastic. But Suzette talked about habits and good habits, setting good habits with your posture, good habits with your health. And really at the start of your career is when you should be setting your good financial habits, because the structure of how you look after your money is what governs everything else. So getting into that habit of, most people when they finish university have some level of debt, the discipline of getting rid of that as quickly as possible, and also making sure that you understand the income that comes into your household, whether you be, living with your parents and you only have to worry about what you need to spend, or whether you've got rent, mortgage, bills to pay as well. You should understand how much your take-home pay is and what your fixed outgoings are, and understand the difference between the two, and what happens to any spare money, or whether there is, if there is a shortfall, why is there a shortfall, and how can you start to close that shortfall. Usually any shortfall is because of debt in early life. Debt's inevitable, as everybody has a mortgage, everybody has some form of debt probably throughout their working lives. But just getting into that habit of understanding and knowing what your finances look like is the key bit in the early stages of a career, and that's why young people should be very focused on it.
Oh, I agree with all that, Suzanne, and the most important thing in life to do is to create good habits with posture. Life is a work-life balance, so the good habits that you lay down now are going to be the good habits for years ahead. And I say to my patients, it's what you do now, it's to do how well you're going to be feeling and working, and most importantly, walking later on in life. There's no point being a billionaire if you can't buy your health.
Very true. Thank you, Suzette. So that brings us on to the next question. So how would you say experts like you help people deal with the unexpected? For example, say the lockdown.
Well, from my own point of view, lockdown was very, very stressful for myself because I didn't feel I could safely practice till I had government instruction and from the General Osteopathic Council and Institute of Osteopathy. And once they showed me how to audit the practice and make it safe for patients to come, and then I felt that I was in a safe place as well, to be able to reach out and help people. And then through my knowledge of talking about diet and exercise and helping them to think about their posture, and also, sort of a lot of people who come to me talk to me about everything. So I treat them holistically to put them in the best balanced place to cope.
And I would say hindsight's a wonderful thing. And one of the first things that we do with all our clients, all our personal clients, is say the first thing that you need to achieve financially is a cash cushion. So just some savings to take care of any emergencies that arise. And normally the examples I give were, if your car broke down, or if your boiler blew up, or if you just needed some money in a hurry, that there's some cash there which is readily accessible so that you don't have to go into debt, which involves further stress, which then has impact on your mental and physical health. But if you've got some cash savings that you've just put aside, then when something happens, and obviously COVID was the biggest thing that's happened to the UK probably since the Second World War, so you can't completely insulate against a shock like that, especially because 99% of the working population are wholly reliable on their earned income coming in order to manage their lifestyle. So you can't prepare against everything, but discipline number one, have some cash savings. Don't look to invest anything until you've got some cash savings sat in a bank account for emergencies. The other thing that we could do in an emergency is just give people that perspective and the long view and say, this is something which is very difficult in the short term, but any savings, any investments that you've got are a long-term strategy. And, you need to try not exhausting and panicking, and just go forward with a plan that you have set up, because you do have that disciplined approach.
Fantastic, thank you both. That leads on to another question, which would be nice to see as sort of example of clients who have turned their life around.
I think turning their life around is probably a big call for a financial advisor, but it definitely makes a difference. I think the example that springs to my mind is I met a lady. I was meeting her to discuss. She was joining her employer's pension scheme and she just wanted to know how it worked. And I thought, I've had this meeting 50 times before. It's not a problem. And during the course of the meeting, she burst into tears. I said, what on earth is it? And she said she was in her late 30s, early 40s. And she said, I've always completely buried my head in the sand about retirement and what I was going to do when I retired. So I've got no idea what pensions I've got. I've got no idea if I've got enough to look after myself when I retire. I've got to a point now where I think I'm probably going to be single going into retirement. There's nobody to look after me and I need to know what I'm doing. So, I was able to reassure her that there was still time to save. It's always best, and this is a really important message for young people. If you're going to start a pension, start early. Even if you start little, start early. Compound interest, the earlier you start, the longer that money's got to grow. The £5 that you save in your 20s will be worth far more than the £50 that you save in your 50s by the time you get to retirement, because you've got the benefit of compound interest. I'll go back to the conversation we were having. I helped her to do some digging on previous employer pensions that she had. So she had more pensions. She thought she had nothing. She found out she did have some savings, and we were able to just get a plan together to help her keep saving regularly for the next 20, 30 years. So that actually she wasn't frightened, and she understood what her state pension would be and when that would be payable. And it just put her back in control of that situation and not having to be frightened of it.
One of my patients asked me if I'd look after her 6-month-old baby, And I said, you know, I don't treat babies because of not having babies myself. I get anxious and they pick it up straight away. So I'm not really keen on helping babies. So she said, please. So I said, OK, just for you. So she brought her 6-month-old baby called Harry, and he'd just come from the doctor, and the doctor had prescribed a 3rd set of antibiotics for his infected sinuses and his congested chest. And when she brought him, I was absolutely horrified because he was purple, which meant that there wasn't much oxygen being circulated through his bloodstream. So I said, OK, I'm going to try something, but if it doesn't work, I'm going to sort of put you in the car and take you to A&E, and I'll do all your fighting for you in A&E for you to make sure he gets help. So we put him on my couch and I released the tension in his scalp muscles, did some soft tissue work on his sinuses, around his cheeks, released the tension in his neck muscles, his shoulder muscles, and also his diaphragm. And then laid him at an angle over some steamy water with some eucalyptus fumes in it and cupped his chest for about 3 minutes. And then I put him back on my couch, surrounded him with tissue paper. And I said, right, Harry, you're going to perform for me now. I'm going to count to 10 and you're going to be sick. So we got to 5 and all this terrible liquid brie came out of him, and he immediately changed colour and he was fine. And that was 16 years ago. So that was a nice little story for you.